Good evening, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our brother Alok. We are continuing in Book 2, the Book of the Traveler of the Worlds, Canto 14, World Soul, page 293, and we read the first 5 or 6 lines after the break.
Yes, but we'll start at the break because it forms one composite whole.
Excellent.
I think, as I was mentioning, that what happens after death and before birth. So between death to birth, what state we enter in, essentially, he's not describing here the passage through the mental and vital worlds. That comes much later in the book of death at different places is described. But here it is what really happens to the soul, because he's describing the word soul and the psychic plane. Therefore, what is described here is what happens to the soul after death. So it's a very profound knowledge, which in a page and a half, Sri Aurobindo has beautifully and compactly given all that is essential for us to know.
Yes.
But first, what Ashupati sees there as he enters into this plane, immersed in voiceless internatal trance. So it's a trance between two births, internatal trance. The beings that once wore forms on earth sat there in shining chambers of spiritual sleep. So we have the best sleep of our lifetimes.
Shining
chambers of spiritual sleep. And if I may add, in the lap of the Divine Mother, and those beings, the soul, that it had borne an earthly form, so all that it had left behind, and it's pure in its nude soul truth. Past were the pillar posts of birth and death, past was their little scene of symbol deeds, past were the heavens and hells of their long road. They had returned into the world's deep soul. So there is a journey after death before we reach this point, this state, this plane. And usually this journey takes 12 days as per the tradition. And by 13th day we are back there. So after that, all this is forgotten, left behind. And then usually most beings will come back to birth soon, unless you have absorbed a lot of experiences. Otherwise, we go there, rest for a while, and then we come back. So what happens there and how do we come back? Let's proceed. All now was gathered into pregnant rest. So this rest is a rest of assimilation. It's a pregnant rest. It's a full, like somebody has a meal. Now that meal has to be digested and changed first from gross matter, food, into energy equivalent. Then this energy has to go inside the cells and change into each cell, whatever is its necessity, its function, it will change into that. So this process is taking place of assimilation. So it's pregnant, it is full with something else which is going to come out. This pregnant rest is like after a meal, when one takes rest, then one comes out and emerges with all the strength and energy to do a new work.
And now we're beginning to see people like Rupert Sheldrake and others.
Yes.
Touching this cellular idea.
Yes. So this happens. All now was gathered into pregnant rest. Person and nature suffered a slumber change. So we are no more the old fool who was doing monkey tricks on earth. So it suffered a change. So his use of language is very interesting. Many places he reverses the meaning. Now this is very interesting. It suffered a change. We don't like to change. We want to remain the same old personality. At one place, Sri Aurobindo says, immortality is not the survival of the old personality. So we think that by immortality means, if not the body, at least my personality will continue to survive. It's not that which survives.
There's also another definition of suffering. Christ says, suffer little children to come to me.
Yes.
Which means to allow.
Yes.
And this sense is also
yes,
there.
Is there. In trance, they gathered back their bygone selves. Now, in every life, we have accumulated something of the psychic personality. There is a psychic around, it's to just state the hierarchy of being, or horizontally, we have the outer personality of which we are aware, outer being, which is what most people see, and most people judge a human being from that. Behind this outer personality, there is the inner personality, which is constantly in a flux and formation. In some people, after an age, it becomes a rigid cast. Then behind this inner personality is the inner being, the inner mental, inner vital, inner physical, which is less rigid, more open to the universal currents. Behind that, there is the true personality, true psychic personality, because it's a being. So we have the true mental, true vital, true physical. This is immortal. So this is formed by gathering all the experiences from life to life. So in a whole lifetime, there may be just, let's say, few moments, let's say the psychic personality, which accumulates the essence of a warrior. In a whole life, this man may have won many battles or lost. But what is the essence of heroism, of courage? That goes and integrates with the psychic personality and becomes the true vital. Mother speaks of, in her own life, she says, when I took birth this time, because it was the complete incarnation of the Supreme Mahashakti, she says all the different beings of previous lives came to her, and especially the vital beings. They had been warriors, and she says they were not gender specific. One of them was the victorious spirit of Murat. So all these beings, they come back and get fused into this psychic essence or the being, depending on the degree of development, and enters into that.
And only those things that have been close to the psychic
only
are carried forward.
In a certain life, we don't put forth all those beings. We put forth one part because it's necessary for this life. Take an example of Charu Chandra Dutt. When Dilip Kumar Roy asked, do you know him? He has, high regard for you. He used to call him as chief. And Sri Aurobindo says, well, he is one of those with whom I have fought the battle of the ages. But in this life, I could not call him. My own preoccupations, I suppose, and also because in this life I had to do the work of a different kind.
Yes.
But it's quite possible that in the next life or in the next creation, he may be brought much closer. So because of the work of a certain kind, at different points of time, these beings will come. So this is how.
Do you feel that all who have been called to Mother
have always
will
met
be
her.
gathered and always went with her?
She says that, and I am sure about it, that Mother says we have all met in previous lives.
Yes.
And definitely in different points of time, in different ways.
Yes.
Though it may also mean sometimes the clasp of an enemy. Think about it. When Sri Aurobindo is Paris, who was Nolnida? Menelaus. So they fought against each other.
Yeah.
So it's like that's not important. The important part was whether they fought with courage. Both had their own height. Now, Menelaus has his own height, nobility of soul. Paris has his own nobility. For the sake of love, he will put a whole empire at stake. He was not wrong from his point of view. Whereas Menelaus was following his own. And there they had the clasp of seemingly opponents. But in this life, who else but Nalini can do my yoga? This is how it works. In a background, memories, foreseeing muse, prophetic of new personality, arrange the map of their coming destiny's course. So everything is, changed in this perspective. It is the soul that chooses its own destiny. It chooses the kind of experiences it will go through. It chooses in what kind of parentage or atmosphere or heredity or circumstances it should be born. That means all this idea of, that somebody is belonging to a different religion and different. Mother said that literally.
Yes.
She said, why should I be attached to one religion? Why should you think your religion is the only superior one? Have we not been born in many religions, many countries, many customs? So if you really look at, psychic is a very liberating force. You will get the truth of everything,
Yes.
but you'll not be attached to the form because you have gone through that external thing. So it's then what does it do? Heights of their past, their futures discoverers, electors of their own self-chosen lot. They waited for the adventure of new life. And this psychic does not choose based on our vital and mental preferences. Oh, I had a very difficult life. Next life, I want to be born rich. No, it may choose a even more difficult life, a life of sacrifice and heroism. Mother speaks of that and she gives her own example. She was an empress in 3 lives. In this life, she wanted to be a very ordinary person, as if incognito, because it was best needed for the kind of work she had come to do. That's how she could identify with all of us, because she grew up like that. She didn't have enough money to, put on her shoes. And so she used to paint her shoes, so that they look new. After all, Mahalakshmi. So she would, those lacquered shoes, so she has written very beautifully. She would put a paint here or there, they look different. Oh, you are wearing a new shoe, but actually it was the same shoe. She would just paint it differently. What a novel, creative way. But she had experienced her life as empress. So, like Beethoven, she said he could be a shoemaker in next life.
Yes.
So all these ideas of big and small and great they go away, because the moment you touch the soul, it vanishes. Because it has no meaning at all. You may be very big in the eyes of the world in this life, but you may be just a small little embryo of a psychic. And in next life, you may choose to be a person on the roadside. Just to share this, we just met someone, and it's a very touching experience. That 29th March, we are going there and having a talk also. Who has grown up on the, now it's public, so I can share it. This boy grew up on the streets of Pondicherry.
Oh, you met him.
You met him.
I just did 3 interviews
Yeah,
with him. Rajan.
Yes, that's it. He grew up on the streets of Pondicherry till 11 years of age. Can you imagine? The person doesn't become a revolting communist with all these ideas. He becomes a bhakta. What a bhakti.
What a bhakti.
From a distance, I couldn't resist. Several times I embraced him. So much love in his heart for mother. If possible, please see his exhibition, Brahmanaspati Kshetram. It's amazing. So, you see, it's the psychic which chose. Oh, I'll roam around in Pondicherry, grow up in the streets, picked up mother's grace, goes to Auroville. And so that is how it chooses. It doesn't choose based on our outer ideas. A person persistent through the lapse of worlds. This is the psychic. A person persistent. So it is the Purusha, not the personality, but the person who is persistent through the lapse of the worlds. Lapse of worlds. Although the same forever in many shapes, by the outward mind unrecognizable, assuming names unknown, in unknown climes, imprints through time upon the earth's worn page, a growing figure of its secret self, and learns by experience what the spirit knew, till it can see its truth alive and God. It is Satyavan. It is always carrying its own truth within, but it doesn't know. Like Sri Ramakrishna gives that example. Somebody carrying the light within goes and knocks. So he gives the example of someone who wanted to have hookah. So he needs fire. So he has to knock at doors. Do you have a matchstick? Do you have a matchstick? So he has to go to places, so he carries a lantern. Knocks at people's door. Do you have a matchstick? No, I don't have. Do you have? No, the fire has been put out. Somebody says, fool, you are carrying it with you. So it always knew who it is. So that's why the closer we come to the soul, instantly we recognize the Divine Mother and we know we are her child. Nobody has to tell us this. This becomes our natural, spontaneous state.
Yes.
that identity which we have lost in the haze and maze of life. Once more, they must face the problem game of birth. How interesting this is. We are solving a jigsaw puzzle. That makes it interesting. It's a game. It's not just a problem, it's a problem game. Let's solve it. Each time in a unique way. That's what she said, that Beethoven
Yes.
may become a shoemaker. It's tackling the same problem from a new angle, in a new way.
Yes.
What was,
Yes. Approaching
the same problem
the same problem in a new
in
way.
a new
yes.
way, different way. So that's how it is. So we are nice playing a game. So this is how it is, problem game. The soul's experiment of joy and grief. It experiments with joy and finds no, it is not what is making me realize what I am born to realize. Let me experiment with grief. Let me wander like the Pandavas in the forests with Panchali, and then my strength will come out. And thought and impulse, lighting the blind act, and venture on the roads of circumstance through inner movements and external scenes, traveling to self across the forms of things. This is the path. What is the path? Life is the path. Through external scenes and inner. This is the path.
Yes.
There is no separate like cutout path, okay, you sit in meditation, you do this. No, path is every day. Each moment is a path. How does it open? It opens when we encounter an external scene and the inner movement. If we have the right key, depending on the inner movement, this path will open. Depending on another key, this path will open. And if we have the right key, the perfect key, mother's name, then straight path will open. So this is the path. So beautiful it is. And each one has their unique path. That's the beauty of this. That's why at the end of the day, nobody can teach anything to anyone. Because it's your own path. We can only talk about fundamentals.
True.
But it's not like thou must do this. Even Shurvin and the mother did not do this because they respected this freedom of the individual to grow in his own way. He has to carve his own journey. Into creation's center he had come. The spirit wandering from state to state finds here the silence of its starting point. You know, we read in the previous canto, silence, the mystic birthplace of the soul. So it comes back to that silence. In the formless force and the still fixity and brooding passion of the world of soul. All that is made and once again unmade. What a wonderful, see the perfection of the language.
Yes.
All that is made and destroyed. No, it's not destroyed. It is unmade. All the elements will go back to the universal states of being. Nothing is destroyed because in principle nothing can be destroyed. This even modern science says that. It can only change itself from one form or one state of energy to another. You can't destroy. So it just changes form. It goes into other forms of life.
Einstein said, take an atom out of the world and it will collapse.
Yes. Nothing can be destroyed. So what is done? It's unmade. So whatever has to pass will pass into different elements, universal planes, and the essence you will absorb. And often I have this example of somebody makes a bridge and the bridge collapses. It happened recently. So what do you carry? Bridge is no more there. And you discovered that, well, this is not how it should be made. That experience is the one thing which you carry. It has been unmade. But what carries the knowledge, the whole thing about that whole experience, maybe even a man who was, often people say that, what kind of people? Yes, he may have taken money and put an inferior material. But look what happens with the collapse. Now, each one has his own lesson. Maybe for the first time he realizes how what I have done. When people do it, they don't understand that what they are doing, and this shakes them up. And for each one, a lesson. So this is how it's unmade. The calm, persistent vision of the one inevitably remakes. It lives anew. The divine knows what this soul is meant to manifest. So once again it puts that original blueprint. Where all we deviated, it takes care and puts it back on track. And that is the difference in life in ignorance and when we lead a life under the wings of the great master. In ignorance, he keeps on reorienting and we keep on deviating. But when we go directly to the divine, he straight away puts us where we should be for our growth. So this is a big difference. And so a lot of pain and effort and wastage is, taken care of. So we end up, arriving in a couple of lives what would normally take 20 lives. This is what he does. The essence. So how does he do it? Calm, persistent vision of the one. He knows what we should be. And he strongly pushes us in that direction. There's so many examples of people here. Though sometimes they still deviated. Famous case of somebody who was very intellectual and mother gave him work of cleaning the books in the ashram library. And people thought that, so intelligent, it's a misuse. He says, no. Later on he went away, that's a different story. There was another who stayed on. I know this now. This is the second instance of Ved Prakashji. So Ved Prakash, who used to look after the dining room, became a trustee also. He was, I think, master in economics and something very qualified. And when he came, mother put him in the dining room. Now you see, look at this, economics. This is another kind of economics. So people said, oh, you are so intelligent and such a learned person. In those days, master in economics. What work has been given? He said, no, this is the perfect work for me. Mother has given me, it will help me progress. And I remember, and on a very personal note, the first work that I got was in marbling section. And same question, they asked me that, would you work in marbling? I said, yeah. Nirodha was given task in timber go down. And Shobindu said that the timber go down progressed because of you. And you progressed because of it. So personally I progressed a lot. I had no clue about colors and this world of forms. These are so nice. Saris can be so enchanting. Stoles and all marbling, it is so beautiful. And I didn't want to leave. They pulled me back into dispensary. Same old story. But she puts us where we should be for our progress. That is the essence. So calm, persistent vision of the one keeps on orienting us to be where we should be for our progress. Forces and lives and beings and ideas are taken into the stillness for a while. There they remold their purpose and their drift. Look at the word again, drift. It's like a general trend. It will show up. If there is one word which beautifully describes Swadharma and Swabhav, a word which is pregnant with many meaning shades. People often fix even Swadharma and Swabhav as something very rigidly fixed. Swabhav, to be a Kshatriya, therefore I have to be a warrior in the battlefield. No. You can be a Kshatriya in the field of knowledge. What will a Kshatriya do in the field of knowledge? He will break fresh grounds, conquer new vistas of knowledge. So Shubhendu uses the word drift. A Kshatriya in the field of business will bring new forces into play. He'll make a whole business sector come out of the old ways as if, slicing it with his courage. He will take new ventures, new kind of, new models of doing things. Because he's an experimenter, he's an adventurer. He has the courage, he's fearless. So look at it, he is using the word drift. So this is the drift of the soul. Recast their nature and reform their shape. So nature as well as the form is also determined by the soul. Look at it. So as the psychic develops, It gives even to the form. It can impress itself even in the form. In most people, it's the eyes, but it can actually impress itself on the form, and the form in the ideal state. In more developed humanity, it begins to reflect something of the inner soul truth. Ever they change, and changing ever grow, and passing through a fruitful stage of death. And after long reconstituting sleep, resume their place in the process of the gods until their work in cosmic time is done. So we are partners of the gods, process of the gods. The soul, the psychic being in man, is a partner of the gods. It's not meant to worship, but be a god, as a god. They are ever engaged in labor. So we share something of their portion and some power or some aspect, and we express it upon earth. We'll continue because it's in the same flow. Here was the fashioning chamber of the worlds. Look at it. The souls are being fashioned. You could describe the ashram at one level in this way: fashioning chamber of the worlds. Sometimes I feel when we enter here, we enter mother's womb. So you have to forget what you were and be ready to be newborn. It's called new birth. Otherwise, if you are carrying on the old idea, I am so and so, I am this, I was that, it doesn't work. Major General, I am forgetting his name, he used to say it very humorously. When he came here all full of army, Major General is a big rank. And people thought that general, people don't know much here, so they thought general means is not good, general is general. So he says, my first lesson was that they started calling me Major Sahab. They thought by saying Major Sahab, we are putting him on a pedestal. Actually, Major is much lower down the race. Major General is 5-6 rungs higher. But they thought calling him General doesn't look nice. So Major, he says, but for me it was an evolution. I got rid of my Major and I got rid of my General. So you have to forget who you were. If you keep that, you can't be reborn. So we're fashioning chamber of the worlds. An interval was left twixt act and act. Twixt birth and birth, twixt dream and waking dream. A pause that gave new strength to do and be. And again, even these lines can apply to the ashram. It was asked to Sri Aurobindo that, I want to do the work that mother has missioned me for. He says that comes much later. First you practice the karma yoga, get rid of all ego and desire. Then mother will give you the work which you are born to express. So first is be ready now. So that for many people it may take a long time, sometimes a whole lifetime. Being here to prepare for the work that divine actually intends for you. And then you come back and you are into that group. So many things are possible. It can be seen as a nursery of, often I visualize the ashram as a nursery of the Divine Mother, where little plants are being potted and growing. And when they are ready, like trees, they spread all over. So this is how. Beyond were regions of delight and peace. So beyond this, of course, this is still the cosmic consciousness. So beyond were regions of delight and peace. Mute birthplaces of light and hope and love in the Supreme Divine. And cradles of heavenly rapture and repose in the Ananda Dham. In a slumber of the voices of the world, he of the eternal moment grew aware. His knowledge, stripped bare of the garbs of sense, knew by identity without thought or word. His being saw itself without its veils. Life's line fell from the spirit's infinity. So this knowledge the soul has, spontaneous recognition. How does it recognize the Divine Mother? It knows it by a soul identity. No logic to it. That's why we must focus on the awakening of the soul. Rest will happen logically.
Yes.
If this is not awakened, then no amount of mental convictions, proofs, or vital asking always for proof. If she is divine, let me have a miracle. Or if she is divine, let me have mental proofs. But for the soul, none of this works. She is divine. Once the soul knows it, regardless of what may happen or may not happen.
Correct.
It's a soul knowledge. How one knows it? By an identity. Sri Aurobindo says that the soul always knows itself as a portion of the Divine Mother. Along a road of pure interior light, alone between tremendous presences, under the watching eyes of nameless gods, his soul passed on a single conscious power. Look at this word, adjective, nameless gods. That's what I keep on often saying. Let them remain nameless. Because it gives them a certain freedom and plasticity. How do we know? Divine has infinite aspects. Why should we limit him to 3 gods, 4 gods, 10 gods? How about any number of gods? And there, in that door, there are gods who are aspects and powers of the divine. You can't fix them by a name. They are emerging and absorbed back.
But here Sri Aurobindo is speaking of himself.
Yes, of course.
His soul passed on a single conscious power.
Yes. He is passing through that state, his experience. Towards the end, which ever begins again. The difference is Ashupati will go beyond.
Yes.
No human soul can go beyond this point, ordinarily. It goes here, comes back to rebirth. Goes here, comes back to rebirth. And when it is ready to pass into the beyond, that's when the psychic being makes a choice. You want to pass beyond and be in that ultimate dissolution, or you want to come back and participate in transformation. Otherwise, normally it goes there and comes back.
Yes.
Approaching through a stillness dumb and calm, the source of all things, human and divine. Look, Sri Aurobindo never forgets to link creation to the Creator. In the cosmic spirit, you have the seed divinity of everything. We have read that. Lake and trees and beast, everything. You have the seed form. It gets distorted and appears on earth. But in the cosmic consciousness, all that is there in its essence. There, now comes another darshan.
Yeah.
There, he beheld in their mighty unions poise the figure of the deathless, 2 in 1. Now, this 2 in 1, we can give names. We can say the Purusha, the world Purusha, if you want, and the Prakriti at her highest. We can say Brahman and Maya. It's up to us. We can say Ishvara and his Shakti, but on the plane of the cosmic gods, cosmic consciousness. Perhaps that will be closest because Sri Aurobindo has written a poem on that. Ishvara to Ishvari, the world play. Read that poem? It's very interesting. Ishvara to Ishvari, the world play. And Ishvara is telling Ishvari that, our passion play is going to begin. It's a very amazing poem, very powerful. So, the mighty 2 in 1. But depending on the seeker, they may appear as Krishna and Radha, or Krishna and Kali, or another line of approach, they may appear as Shiva and Parvati.
Or Sri Aurobindo
It all, and the mother. It depends on the approach. But best is to leave them as the mighty union. It's if you want to take Shiva and Parvati, it is the Ardhanarishwar, where the Purusha and the Prakriti become one. Ishvara and his Shakti become one. That is the poise. It's no more 2, as we experience here. A single being in 2 bodies clasped, a diarchy of 2 united souls, seated, absorbed in deep creative joy. Their trance of bliss sustained the mobile world. So if we will experience them as Sri Aurobindo and the mother as one.
Yes.
And that's why it's only when one reaches this state that one begins to open to the supramental influence. You see, there is a line of mother when you see no difference between Sri Aurobindo's consciousness and mine. When to bow before Sri Aurobindo is to bow before me. And to turn to me is to turn towards Sri Aurobindo. Not exact lines, but the essence. Then you begin to open to the supramental influence. As long as there is division, as long as there is preference, one is not yet open. It is here at this plane, either grasped intuitively or as the seer yogin Ashwapati, or by a sheer growth of the psychic being. Fully developed psychic being would know. One experiences the two in one. Behind them, in a morning dusk, one stood. Why the morning dusk? She is carrying in herself the future which is yet to come. So these two are absorbed in the world play. But they are the ones into whom that unmanifest light will come, and then it will pass on into creation. Every moment the creation is new created. So in the morning dusk, she brings the glory. You can call her as Usha, but I like to call her as, if you read through, Kali, the world mother. That's, the image that comes to me. But it's not that one has to be fixed, and I'll tell you why it comes. A very powerful image. Behind them in a morning dusk one stood, who brought them forth from the unknowable. Sees the Divine Mother as the, Jagannatha, World Mother. Ever disguised, she awaits the seeking spirit, watcher on the supreme, unreachable peaks. Guide of the traveler of the unseen paths, she guards the austere approach to the alone. She is also the Sphinx of eternity. She guards the austere approach to the alone. She will not let you pass if you are not ready. And if you are ready, you can pass only and only by her grace. There is no other way you can pass through these gates. You may not recognize, but she is the one who opens the gate and lets the soul pass.
Sri Aurobindo speaks of this going into the place of sleep. And he says, it can be very, very difficult.
Yes.
But there is grace. That's the key.
Yes. So she waits for us. Just imagine how beautiful this line is. And we are running after all kinds of people. And somebody is waiting for us with her arms outspread. Come, my child, come, my child. Mother says in agenda, there's a beautiful line, my child, I am millions of years old and I am waiting. She waits. One day the soul will recognize and come into my lap. At the beginning of each far spread plain, pervading with her power the cosmic suns, she reigns, inspirer of its multiple works. So she is the Shakti that has gone into creation, the world mother, and all is her passion play. And thinker of the symbol of its scene. Above them all she stands, supporting all. So when she decides, then things happen in a certain way. If she decides that the world go to blazes, nothing can stop it. It was Kali who decided the Mahabharata. She was Draupadi. Draupadi was the incarnation of Kali. Even Krishna couldn't have stopped it. But she has decided. So all that happens, rest is a symbol play. Outwardly there will be all pleasure and pain, and all this is a experience in ignorance. But she has decided that an empire must be brought down. It will be brought down. Nobody can stop it. Above them all she stands, supporting all, the sole, omnipotent goddess ever veiled, of whom the world is the inscrutable mask. See why I think of Kali. The ages are the footfalls of her tread. Each step she takes, an age changes. Kali comes from that. Kala. She is the master beyond time. Mahakali. That's why, she changes all time with her tread. As she walks, a new age forms. Whatever it takes in terms of human hours or human days. The ages are the footfalls of her tread. Their happenings, the figure of her thoughts. And all creation is her endless act. And now we see even greater that manifestation. His spirit was made a vessel of her force. Mute in the fathomless passion of his will, he outstretched to her his folded hands of prayer. What do you do when the World Mother is in front of you? You just surrender and pray. What does Ashupati pray? And look at the gesture, what she makes. Then, now you see the powerful power of these lines and the magnitude, the scope, the breadth and width and depth and height. It's amazing. So normally, and what television or video can actually portray it. It goes beyond all that we can conceive. So in a typical setting, if you have to show this on a video, so you will show that he reached and the Divine Mother is as a human form with some play of lights and all that, or semi-human form, and then she lifts the head and hand and says, ask what you want to ask. Isn't it the gesture? Look what Sri Aurobindo writes. Then, in a sovereign answer to his heart, a gesture came as of worlds thrown away. How do you capture this? Suddenly she lifts the arm and worlds, you pick up. Choose, my child, which world you want to reign. Worlds thrown away. You can take anything you want. You are my favorite. Nothing is denied to the God lover, for indeed he is the self of the beloved. Whatever he wants. A gesture came as of worlds thrown away, and from her raiments lustrous mystery raised, one arm half parted the eternal veil. So on one side, worlds thrown away. Pick and choose. You want the great heavens? Tathastu. Or on the other side, one arm half parts the eternal veil. You want to pass into the beyond? There you are. Whatever you choose. A light appeared, still and imperishable, attracted to the large and luminous depths of the ravishing enigma of her eyes. He saw the mystic outline of a face. He has the darshan of the Divine Mother. See, this is grace. How can human beings have this darshan? Sri Aurobindo brings it so close to us. We speak about chapter 11 of the Gita. Several places Sri Aurobindo gives us the darshan of the Divine Mother in Savitri just through the play of word and sound, and thankfully in English language. Yes. So we all can, richly enjoy. Overwhelmed by her implacable light and bliss. So Ashupati, vast mind, large heart, even he is overwhelmed. In one line he summarizes the state of Arjuna. But Ashupati is a yogi, unlike Arjuna. So Arjuna is full of fear when he is overwhelmed. But what happens to Ashupati? He is also overwhelmed by that light and bliss. An atom of her illimitable self, he discovers. He, and why he? The whole creation. It's an atom of her illimitable self. Mastered by the honey and lightning of her power. Tossed towards the shores of her ocean ecstasy. Drunk with the deep, golden, spiritual wine. Can all this be ever captured on any screen? This is the power of the Word made flesh. This is the power of the creative word which the Vedic rishis speak of. But we don't find it. Here we find it. As if we are actually experiencing that honey, that light, that bliss, that overwhelmed. This is how it creates. I'll read these 3 lines again. Mastered by the honey and lightning of her power, tossed towards the shores of her ocean ecstasy, drunk with a deep, golden spiritual wine, he cast from the rent stillness of his soul a cry of adoration and desire. What else can he do? And the surrender of his boundless mind and the self-giving of his silent heart. What is his desire? Take me, Mother, make me fully thine. May I belong to you alone. May each atom of my existence, each thought, each feeling, each cell, each throb, each breath, each heartbeat, each lives to lives should be thine. Utter self-giving of the heart and the mind. He fell down at her feet, unconscious, prone. Even a great yogi like Ashupati, he falls down at her feet, unconscious, prone. I'll stop with these few lines. Just read them again. A very powerful. Overwhelmed by her implacable light and bliss, an atom of her illimitable self, mastered by the honey and lightning of her power, tossed towards the shores of her ocean ecstasy, drunk with a deep, golden spiritual wine, he cast from the rent stillness of his soul a cry of adoration and desire, and the surrender of his boundless mind, and the self-giving of his silent heart. He fell down at her feet, unconscious, prone.